The winter had been brutal that year, colder than anyone could remember. The lakes and rivers had frozen over early, and the snow piled high, turning the small town into a quiet, white world. For one man, a broke single father struggling to make ends meet, the season was just another challenge in a life full of them. He lived in a tiny, run-down apartment with his 6-year-old son. Money was tight, so tight that some nights, dinner was just toast and eggs. But no matter how hard things got, he never let his boy see him break. He worked odd jobs, shoveling snow, fixing cars, anything to put food on the table. His hands were rough, his back ached, but he kept going. His son was his reason. One afternoon, as he walked home from a mechanic's shop where he'd spent the day changing oil for a few bucks, he took a shortcut by the frozen lake. The wind bit at his face, and he shoved his hands deep into his pockets, wishing he had thicker gloves. That's when he heard it, sharp, panicked screams cutting through the icy air. His head snapped toward the sound. 2 little girls, no older than 5 or 6, were out on the ice. And then he saw it, a jagged crack splitting the frozen surface beneath them. One of them slipped, her leg plunging into the freezing water. The other girl screamed, reaching for her sister, but the ice under her feet groaned dangerously. He didn't think. He ran. His boots pounded against the snow as he raced toward the lake. The ice was thin near the edges, but the girls had wandered too far out. He dropped to his stomach, spreading his weight, and crawled toward them. The ice creaked beneath him, threatening to give way. "Stay still," he shouted, his voice rough with fear. "Don't move." The girls were crying, their tiny hands shaking. The one in the water was gasping, her lips already turning blue. He inched closer, his muscles burning from the cold and the strain. When he was close enough, he grabbed the first girl's arm and pulled her free from the water. She was soaked and shivering violently. The other girl clung to him, her fingers digging into his jacket. Slowly, carefully, he dragged them both back to solid ground. His heart hammered in his chest. The girls were crying, their teeth chattering. He ripped off his coat and wrapped them both in it, rubbing their arms to keep them warm. "Where's your mom?" "Your dad?" he asked, his breath coming out in white puffs. The girls pointed shakily toward a house near the lake. Without another word, he scooped them up and ran. By the time he reached the front door, a woman was already rushing out, her face pale with terror. She screamed when she saw her daughters, wet and trembling. "They fell through the ice," he said, out of breath. "They're freezing, you need to get them warm." The woman grabbed her girls, hugging them tightly, tears streaming down her face. She looked up at him, her voice breaking. thank you so much. You saved them." He just nodded, suddenly aware of how cold he was without his coat. His hands were numb, his body shaking. The woman begged him to come inside, to warm up, but he shook his head. "I gotta get home to my boy," he said. And with that, he turned and walked away, the cold biting at his skin. He didn't think much of it, just another day, another thing he had to do to survive. But what he didn't know was that this act of bravery would change everything. Because that woman? She wasn't just anyone. And in just a few days, a convoy of black SUVs would roll into his life, bringing with them a twist of fate he never saw coming. The walk home felt longer than usual. The cold seeped into his bones, and without his coat, the wind cut right through him. His fingers were stiff, his breath coming out in quick, white puffs. But none of that mattered. All he could think about was getting back to his son. When he finally reached their small apartment, he pushed open the door, trying to steady his shaking hands. His boy was sitting at the rickety kitchen table, coloring in an old notebook. The moment he saw his father, his face lit up. "Dad! You're back!" The boy jumped up, but then his smile faltered. "Where's your coat? You're all wet." He forced a tired smile. Just had a little adventure, that's all. He ruffled his son's hair, ignoring the way his own body trembled. You eat yet? The boy nodded. Mrs. Riley from next door brought soup. He let out a slow breath. Mrs. Riley was kind, always checking in when she could. He'd have to thank her later. Right now, he needed to warm up before he caught a cold. He couldn't afford to get sick. No work meant no money. He changed into dry clothes, his muscles aching. The image of those two little girls flashed in his mind, their wide, terrified eyes, the way the ice had cracked beneath them. He pushed the thought away. They were safe now. That was all that mattered. The next morning, he woke up with a pounding headache. His throat was sore, his body heavy. He groaned, sitting up slowly. His son was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the floor with his toys. Dad, you sound funny, the boy said, tilting his head. Yeah, just a little cold, he muttered, rubbing his face. He couldn't stay in bed. He had to work. But as he stood, the room spun. He gripped the wall, swallowing hard. His son's smile faded. You're sick. I'm fine, he lied. But even he knew he wasn't fooling anyone. He managed to make it to the kitchen, boiling water for tea. He had no medicine, no money to buy any. He'd just have to tough it out. Then, a knock at the door. His son ran to answer it before he could stop him. When he looked over, his stomach dropped. A tall man in a black suit stood in the doorway. Behind him, parked along the narrow street, were 3 sleek black SUVs. The man's expression was unreadable. Are you the man who rescued the 2 girls by the lake yesterday? He hesitated, then nodded. Yeah. Why? The man stepped aside, revealing a woman standing behind him, the mother of the girls. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. But when she saw him, she rushed forward. I didn't even get your name, she said, her voice trembling. You just left. You saved my daughters and didn't ask for anything. He shifted uncomfortably. Anyone would have done it. No, she said firmly. Not everyone. She glanced around the small apartment, her gaze lingering on the peeling wallpaper, the second-hand furniture. Then she looked at his son, who was peeking out from behind his leg. Her expression softened. You're sick. It's nothing, he said quickly. She turned to the man in the suit. Get the car ready. Then, to him, you're coming with us. His grip tightened on his son's shoulder. I'm not going anywhere. She shook her head. Not like that. You need a doctor. And after what you did, my family owes you more than you know. He wanted to argue, but a coughing fit hit him hard, doubling him over. His son's small hands gripped his arm. Dad. The woman's voice was gentle but firm. Please. Let us help you. He looked at his son's worried face, then back at her. He was too tired to fight. Too sick to think straight. Finally, he nodded. The man in the suit stepped forward, taking his bag. Another man helped him walk to the SUV while the woman carried his son, whispering reassuring words to him. As the door closed behind them, he had no idea where they were taking him. But for the first time in years, he wasn't facing the cold alone. The inside of the SUV was warmer than any place he'd been in months. Leather seats, quiet hum of the engine, even the air smelled clean, like pine trees and something faintly expensive. His son pressed his face against the window, eyes wide as the town blurred past them. Where are they taking us? The thought gnawed at him, but his head was too foggy to focus. His skin burned even as his body shivered under the thick blanket the woman had draped over him. Almost there, she said softly from the front seat. He tried to speak, but another cough racked his chest. His son immediately grabbed his hand, small fingers squeezing tight. The car turned onto a private road lined with towering trees. At the end stood a wrought iron gate. A guard nodded, and the gate swung open silently. His breath caught. A mansion. Not just a big house, a palace of glass and stone, glowing against the gray winter sky. Fountains, even in winter. A circular driveway where two more suited men stood waiting. The woman turned to face him. "This is my home." His son gasped. "Whoa. Do you live in a castle?" She smiled, but her eyes were serious. "My father does." The SUV stopped. Before he could react, the door opened and strong hands helped him out. His legs barely held him. The woman lifted his son effortlessly, whispering, "It's okay, little man. We're going to make your dad all better." Then everything happened too fast, being guided inside, the blast of heat from a marble-floored hallway, the dizzying sight of a chandelier bigger than his entire kitchen. A white-haired man in a tailored suit stood at the top of a grand staircase. "So this is the hero," the man boomed. The woman nodded. "Papa, he's burning up." The old man descended, his sharp eyes missing nothing, the worn cuffs of his jeans, the way his son clung to him. "Dr. Varma is waiting in the East Wing." He snapped his fingers. "Now." A team of people appeared as if from nowhere. A nurse took his temperature. Another man wheeled forward a chair, but he stubbornly shook his head. "I can walk." The old man raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. They led him down hallways lined with artwork, past rooms with grand pianos and walls of books. His son kept whispering, "Dad, look at that. Dad, are we in a movie?" Finally, a sterile white room with a hospital bed. A doctor with kind eyes gestured for him to sit. "Pneumonia," the doctor murmured after an exam. "Advanced. You'd have been in the ER within 24 hours." He stiffened. "I can't afford." "You're not paying." The old man stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "Consider it gratitude." The woman brought his son a cup of hot chocolate. The boy sipped, leaving a chocolate mustache. "This is so good." A laugh escaped her, real and warm. Then she met his gaze. "You risked your life for my girls. Now let us help you." The doctor injected something into his fore. The room softened at the edges. As sleep dragged him under, his last thought was, "None of this makes sense." 3 days later. Sunlight streamed through unfamiliar curtains. He blinked, disoriented. The bed was softer than anything he'd ever felt. His chest still ached, but the crushing weight was gone. Then he noticed the boy-sized lump under the covers beside him. His son, curled up like a puppy, still wearing the brand-new pajamas someone had given him. A quiet knock. The woman entered with a tray, steaming soup, fresh bread. "You look better," she said. He sat up slowly. "Where's my son's school stuff?" "His teacher will." "Already handled." She set the tray down. "Your landlord too." "Rent's paid for 6 months." His jaw tightened. "We don't need charity." "It's not charity." She hesitated. "My father wants to meet you. Properly." Downstairs, the old man waited in a study lined with antique guns and framed photos, him shaking hands with presidents, cutting ribbons at hospitals. "Sit," the man commanded. Then, to his surprise, poured 2 glasses of amber liquid. "You drink?" "Not in front of my kid." A grunt of approval. "Good man." The old man pushed a check across the desk. His stomach dropped at the number. 6 figures. "I don't understand." The old man leaned forward. "That's a signing bonus. I want you to head security at my new children's hospital. Salary, benefits, a house on the property." The room spun. "Why?" Because a man who dives into frozen water to save strangers without hesitation is the kind of man I want protecting what matters. The old man's voice dropped. And because I know what it's like to raise a child alone. His son chose that moment to barrel into the room, clutching a toy helicopter. Grandpa. Can we ride the real one now? Grandpa? The woman flushed. He's been bonding with Papa. The old man ruffled his son's hair. Helicopter rides require healthy dads. Is yours healed? The boy nodded vigorously. Can we live here? They have a movie room. 3 pairs of eyes turned to him. The check glowed on the desk. Somewhere, a clock ticked. The grandfather's study smelled like old books and expensive whiskey. The check on the desk might as well have been a live grenade. One wrong move and everything could blow up in his face. His son, completely unaware of the tension, tugged at his sleeve. Dad, say yes. They have a pony. The old man chuckled, but his sharp eyes never left the father's face. The boy's got spirit. Takes after you. He swallowed hard. This was too much. A job? A house? These people lived in a different world, one where problems vanished with a snap of fingers. His world was built on sweat and overdue bills. I need to think, he said finally. The grandfather nodded like he expected this. Take the night. Walk the grounds. See the house we'd give you. He leaned forward, the leather chair creaking. But understand, this isn't pity. That fire in you? That's rare. Later, in the guest wing. His son bounced on the king-sized bed, giggling as the down pillows poofed around him. This is way better than our apartment. He forced a smile. Yeah, buddy. It's nice. Too nice. The guest room alone was bigger than their entire apartment. Through the window, he could see the promised house, a cozy-looking cottage near the tree line, smoke curling from its chimney. A soft knock. The woman entered with 2 steaming mugs. Hot chocolate for the adventurer, she said, handing one to his beaming son, and coffee for his brave dad. When his son scampered off to explore the ensuite bathroom's awesome giant tub, she lingered. You're not sleeping, she observed. Hard to relax when my whole life just got flipped upside down. She sat on the window seat, moonlight catching the silver in her hair. I was 12 when my mother died. Papa didn't cry, not where I could see. Just worked harder, built all this. Her fingers traced the windowpane. First time I saw him show real emotion in years. When you carried my girls through that door. His chest tightened. I just did what anyone. No. Her voice cracked. The man who should have saved them. Their father? He was too busy at some business dinner 3 states away. The bitterness in her tone explained the wedding ring-free hand. Below them, a shadow crossed the lawn, the grandfather walking alone toward a distant mausoleum, shoulders bowed. She followed his gaze. He sees himself in you. A man who'd burn the world down for his family. Standing, she paused at the door. The cottage has a treehouse. My boys built it for the girls. They'd want your son to have it. When she left, he stared at the check still in his pocket. Midnight. Sleep wouldn't come. He slipped out, careful not to wake his son. The mansion was eerily quiet, just the hum of the heating system. He wandered, passing a family portrait, the grandfather, the woman, 2 beaming little girls, and a blurred-out figure where a man must have been. Weird. A light glowed under the grandfather's study door. Muffled voices argued. Too risky. A stranger's voice. Background check shows he's perfect. The grandfather's growl. A fighter who doesn't know he's being tested? Priceless. His blood turned to ice. Tested? Floorboards creaked behind him. He whirled to find the woman, pale in her robe. She mouthed, "Not here." "The kitchen." She poured 2 fingers of whiskey, pushed it across the marble island. "Papa's complicated. He didn't touch the drink." "What was that about a test?" Her sigh fogged the glass. "The lake wasn't an accident." "What?" "The nanny was paid to lose sight of the girls. Papa wanted to see who'd step up when." She met his eyes. "You were the only one who didn't look at their designer coats before jumping in." Rage burned through him. "You used your own kids as..." "No." Her fist hit the counter. "I didn't know until after. That's why their father's gone now." She swiped at angry tears. "Papa's methods are cruel, but his heart's in the right place." "The hospital security job? It's real. The danger's real too." He stood so fast the stool screeched. "I'm taking my son home." "Listen." She blocked his path. 3 months ago, someone tried kidnapping my girls for ransom. The police found nothing. Papa's building that hospital in their name, and he needs people he can trust to protect it." Her voice dropped. "People like you." Outside, wind howled against the windows. Somewhere in the mansion, his son slept peacefully, probably dreaming of ponies and treehouses. She pressed a key into his palm. "Go see the cottage. Just look. Then decide." The metal bit into his skin. The key felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in his hand. He stood in the freezing dark, staring at the cottage. It looked like something from a storybook: wooden beams, a wraparound porch, Christmas lights still twinkling around the roof. The kind of home he'd never be able to give his son. The lake wasn't an accident. The words twisted in his gut. He should wake his boy right now, walk out those gates, and never look back. But then he pictured his son's face when he'd seen that treehouse. Gravel crunched under his boots as he crossed the lawn. The key turned smoothly. The moment he stepped inside, warmth wrapped around him like a hug. Someone had left the lights on. The living room was all soft blankets and overstuffed chairs. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. On the mantel, a framed photo stopped him cold, his son, grinning between the 2 little girls, all 3 wearing matching superhero capes. When was this taken? A creak upstairs. His muscles tensed. "Dad?" He whirled to find his son peering down from the loft, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "How did you?" "The lady carried me. She said you were gonna say yes." His son padded down the ladder, clutching a stuffed bear he'd never seen before. "Can we? Please? They got a gaming room and everything." He knelt, gripping his son's shoulders. "Buddy, this isn't normal. These people. Scary?" His son whispered. "Yeah. A little." The boy surprised him by nodding. "The grandpa's like a lion. But the girl said he gives the best hugs when you're sad." He held up the bear. "This was theirs. They said I could borrow it forever if we stay." His throat tightened. Before he could answer, headlights swept across the windows. A black SUV skidded to a stop outside. The grandfather stumbled out, clutching his arm. Blood dripped between his fingers. The old man collapsed on the porch. His son gasped. "Dad, he's hurt." He yanked the door open. The grandfather's face was gray with pain. "They're coming," he wheezed. "Took out the guards. Wanted the girls." Screams echoed from the mansion. The grandfather grabbed his wrist with shocking strength. "Take your boy and run. Or stay and fight. But decide now." Somewhere glass shattered. A car engine roared toward them. His son's small hand slipped into his. He made his choice. 2 minutes earlier, the mansion. The woman had been checking the security feeds when motion sensors tripped at the east gate. "Papa!" She sprinted down the hall toward his bedroom. "We have." The window exploded. Men in black rappelled through, guns raised. She ducked as bullets shredded the family portrait where her ex-husband's face had been. The grandfather burst from his room, a vintage revolver in hand. "Get the girls to the panic room." "But the cottage." "Go." He fired twice. A masked man dropped. She fled toward the nursery as more gunfire erupted. The twins were already awake, their nanny barricading the door with a dresser. "Mommy!" They reached for her, tiny hands shaking. She shoved a teddy bear into their arms. "Remember the secret tunnel? Like we practiced?" Tearful nods. The nanny yanked open a hidden panel in the closet. "Hurry!" As her daughters disappeared into the dark, she turned toward the sound of screeching tires outside. The cottage. Present, cottage porch. The grandfather slumped against the doorframe, blood soaking through his silk pajamas. "Back door, leads to the woods. Follow the blue markers." His son was crying silently, bear clutched to his chest. Gunfire popped in the distance. The SUV's headlights swung toward them. He hauled the old man inside, barricading the door with a heavy oak table. "Where are your girls?" "Safe." The grandfather grimaced as he pressed a couch cushion to his wound. "Your boy isn't." The SUV's engine idled outside. Doors slammed. He grabbed a fireplace poker. "Upstairs. Now." His son didn't move. Staring at the blood, he suddenly darted to the kitchen. "What are you?" The boy returned with the salt box from dinner. Dumped it on the grandfather's wound. "For the germs," he sniffled. The old man's laugh turned into a groan. "Smart kid." Boots stomped up the porch steps. He shoved them both toward the stairs. "Move." The front door splintered. The first kick sent the door shuddering in its frame. "Upstairs. Now." He practically threw his son toward the steps, the fireplace poker slick in his sweaty grip. The grandfather tried to stand, then collapsed with a grunt, leaving a bloody handprint on the wall. His son froze halfway up the steps, eyes huge. "Dad." The second kick shattered the lock. A masked man barreled inside, gun sweeping the room. He swung the poker like a baseball bat. Crack. The man's rifle clattered to the floor as he crumpled, clutching his shattered wrist. Two more rushed in behind him. "Run," he roared at his son. The boy disappeared upstairs just as the first bullet tore into the wall beside his head. He dove behind the overturned table, wood splintering as bullets chewed through it. The grandfather, pale but alert, slid a hunting knife across the floor to him. "Distract them," he wheezed. Another spray of gunfire. He peeked over the table, 3 men now, fanning out. One headed straight for the stairs. His son. Adrenaline burned through his veins. He launched himself at the nearest attacker, knife flashing. The man screamed as the blade found his thigh. A gun barrel pressed against his temple. "Drop it," a voice growled. Then. Thump. The gunman dropped like a sack of potatoes. Behind him stood his son, trembling, holding a cast-iron skillet like a baseball bat. "Why you don't hurt my dad," the boy sobbed. The remaining intruder turned his weapon toward the child. Time slowed. He lunged, knocking the gun upward as it fired. Plaster rained from the ceiling. They crashed to the floor, rolling, punching, biting, anything to keep that muzzle pointed away from his boy. The grandfather suddenly loomed over them, revolver in hand. Bang! The intruder went limp. Silence. His son was hyperventilating, the skillet still clutched in white-knuckled hands. He scrambled to scoop him up, heart hammering against the boy's small back. "You're okay. You're okay." The grandfather slumped against the wall, revolver dangling. "They'll send more." Outside, engines roared. More SUVs? Then, a woman's voice shouting through a megaphone, "Police! Come out with your hands up." The grandfather's bloodied face twisted in confusion. "I didn't call them." Upstairs, a window creaked open. The woman's voice floated down, "The girls did." The twins crouched in the panic room, their nanny unconscious from a head wound. The older one, lip trembling, punched numbers into the pink cell phone their mother had hidden in Bear's stuffing. "Grandpa said only for super emergencies," she whispered. Her sister nodded, clutching the other bear, the one now in his son's arms. "This is super-duper emergency." The little finger hit send on a text drafted weeks ago. Chaos erupted outside, screams, radio static, the whomp of a police helicopter's spotlight sweeping the grounds. The woman burst through the ruined door, twin girls clinging to her legs. She took in the blood, the bodies, then locked eyes with him. "You stayed." His son wriggled free and ran to the girls. "You saved us." The older twin proudly showed her phone. Bear has secret buttons." Police swarmed the cottage. Paramedics loaded the grandfather onto a stretcher. A detective knelt beside the dead intruder, pulling off the mask to reveal. The woman gasped. "That's Marco. From my ex's security team." The grandfather, despite his pallor, looked grimly satisfied. "I knew that Weasel was behind the kidnapping attempts." As the medics wheeled him out, the old man grabbed his sleeve. "You fought for my family when you could have run. That job offer?" A weak but fierce smile. "Quadrupled. Then they took him away." The woman hugged her girls close. "We owe you everything." His son, now holding hands with both twins, looked up hopefully. "Does this mean we get to stay?" The police lights painted the cottage walls blue and red. Somewhere in the city, a dangerous man now knew his face. His old life, the tiny apartment, the overdue bills, felt like someone else's memory. He looked at his son, alive and beaming between his new friends, and made peace with his choice. "Yeah, buddy." He ruffled the boy's hair. "We're staying." The grandfather's penthouse suite smelled like antiseptic and expensive cigars. Machines beeped softly as the old man propped himself up in bed, his chest wrapped in bandages. "They missed my heart by half an inch," he grunted, accepting the glass of whiskey the nurse clearly wasn't supposed to give him. "Lucky shot." The woman, Lena, he'd finally learned her name, rolled her eyes. "Papa, the doctor said no alcohol. Doctor also said I'd die at 60. The old man smirked. "Look at me now." He stood awkwardly by the window, watching his son play tag with the twins in the hospital's rooftop garden below. The girls' laughter floated up through the glass. 3 weeks since the attack, and already it felt like they'd always been part of this world. The grandfather followed his gaze. "Your boy's good for them. After their father." A muscle twitched in his jaw. "Let's just say kids shouldn't hear what he called them when I cut him off." Lena's hands clenched around her coffee cup. Something dark uncoiled in his gut. He'd met men like that before, the kind who saw children as bargaining chips. "He's really gone?" The grandfather exchanged a look with Lena. "Not gone enough." Security briefing, underground bunker. The head of security, a grizzled ex-marine named Cole, pointed to blueprints spread across the table. "We found 3 more of his men casing the hospital construction site." Photos showed grainy surveillance shots of tattooed figures. His fingers traced a circled area on the plans. "This is where the new pediatric wing connects to the parking garage." "Weak point." Cole nodded approvingly. "You've got the eye." Lena leaned in, her shoulder brushing his. The scent of her perfume, something citrusy and warm, cut through the stale bunker air. We move the girls to Switzerland next week. Until then, I want our new head of security shadowing them 24/7. The grandfather's voice came from the doorway. He walked slowly, still favoring his wounded side, but his eyes were sharp. Starting now. Cole stiffened. Sir, protocol states. Protocol just got rewritten. The old man tossed a badge on the table. If you're ready. The badge gleamed under fluorescent lights. Director of Security. His throat went dry. This wasn't just a job, it was a target painted on his back. On his son's back. Lena's hand found his under the table. Squeezed. Let go. He picked up the badge. The new normal. His son's old backpack was now stuffed with emergency gear, a GPS tracker sewn into the lining, a panic button disguised as a superhero emblem. Cool. The boy spun to show off his new, school uniform, actually Kevlar-lined fabric. Now I'm bulletproof. He forced a smile, stomach churning. No 6-year-old should need armor. The twins had matching outfits. Lena knelt to adjust their collars. Remember the rules? Never go with strangers, the older twin recited. Even if they say they know mommy, the younger added. His son fist bumped them. And always stay where dad can see us. Later, as the kids played in the bulletproof glass-enclosed sunroom, Lena handed him a coffee. You're doing that thing again. What thing? Clenching your jaw so hard I'm surprised your teeth don't crack. She mimed cracking an egg. They're safe here. He watched his son teach the twins how to make spitballs. Safe used to mean checking for mold in their peanut butter. Now it meant armed guards and panic rooms. Lena followed his gaze. You regret staying. It wasn't a question. The sun dipped behind the city skyline, painting them both gold. Somewhere in that glittering maze, a vengeful ex-husband was plotting. He took her hand this time. Not even a little. Midnight, security office. The encrypted email popped up at 12:37 a.m. Construction site incident report, classified. Photos loaded slowly. His coffee went cold as he scanned them, blurry shots of a man in a hoodie planting something near the hospital's foundation. Then the last image, a close-up of the man's wrist as he reached into his jacket. A tattoo. The same damn symbol he'd seen on the intruders at the cottage. Cole burst in, face grim. We've got a problem. On the monitor, live footage showed the girls' private school. A black van idled at the curb. No license plates. His son was in that building. The school's lockdown alarm screamed through the hallways like a living thing. He crashed through the front doors, gun drawn, Cole and 3 other guards at his back. The receptionist pointed a shaking finger down the west corridor. The children, the panic room. His boots pounded on polished floors. Every classroom door stood barricaded, teachers peering through wire-reinforced glass. The elementary wing looked abandoned, until he spotted a single teddy bear lying near a supply closet. The twins' bear. Cole kicked the closet door open. A ventilation grate hung loose, screws freshly removed. A child's shoe print showed in the dust below. His radio crackled. Perimeter breach. Northeast fence. Gunfire erupted outside. Flashback, that morning. His son had been unusually quiet over breakfast. You okay, buddy? The boy stirred his cereal in slow circles. The twins had bad dreams. About their dad coming back. His stomach twisted. They told you that? A nod. They said he whispers mean stuff when he tucks them in. Even when he's not there. The boy looked up, eyes too old for 6. I taught them our secret knock. So they know it's really me at their door. Present, school basement. The emergency lights cast long shadows across the boiler room. His breath fogged in the cold air as he followed the trail of candy wrappers, his son's favorite brand. A whimper echoed off concrete walls. He rounded a stack of crates to find the twins huddled behind their nanny, her arm bleeding through torn fabric. His son stood in front of them, wielding a fire extinguisher like a baseball bat. "Stay back," the boy shouted, then recognized him. "Dad!" The twins rushed forward, clinging to his legs. The nanny sagged in relief. "They came through the vents. We heard them say." A metallic click cut her off. The man stepped from the shadows, pistol aimed at his son's head. "Hello, hero." Tall. Expensive suit. Cold smile. Lena's ex. The twins shrieked and buried their faces in his jacket. His son didn't flinch. "You're not allowed here," the boy said fiercely. The man's grin widened. "Cute. Looks like my daughters found themselves a little guard dog." His finger tightened on the trigger. "Pity they'll watch him." Whump. The fire extinguisher hit the man square in the chest, knocked from his son's hands. The gun went off, ceiling tiles rained down, and then he was moving, tackling the bastard to the ground. They rolled, crashing into pipes. The gun skittered away. A fist smashed his nose. He headbutted the man in return, tasting blood. Somewhere behind him, his son yelled, "Now!" The twins lunged for the gun together. Upstairs, chaos. Lena fought through SWAT teams, her designer heels abandoned somewhere by the parking lot. "Where are my children?" The grandfather arrived seconds later, still pale from his injury but moving like a man half his age. He grabbed a fleeing teacher. "Where are they?" A burst of static, then Cole's voice on the radio, "Basement. Go now. Boiler room." He straddled the ex-husband, pinning his wrists. "You touch those girls again, I'll..." The man spat blood. "You'll what?" "You're just the hired help." His laugh turned into a wheeze. "She'll toss you out when she's done playing hero." The twins crouched nearby, the gun clutched between them, tears cutting clean streaks through the dust on their faces. His son stood guard in front of them, wielding a broken pipe. Footsteps pounded down the stairs. Lena appeared first, her scream echoing off the walls when she saw the gun in her daughter's hands. "No!" The grandfather froze in the doorway, taking in the scene, the blood, the trembling children, the man pinned beneath his new head of security. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the older twin started crying. "He said he'd take us somewhere dark forever." The grandfather's face went stone cold. He strode forward, yanked his ex-son-in-law up by the collar, and slammed him against a support beam. "You dare threaten my blood?" Lena gathered the weeping girls, but her eyes stayed locked on him, on the way he immediately moved to check his son for injuries. The ex-husband sneered. "You think this ends with me? The people I owe." The grandfather silenced him with a brutal punch. "Cole." The security chief stepped forward. "Sir?" "Call Detective Ruiz. Tell him we found his fugitive." The old man straightened his cuffs, glaring at the unconscious man. "Allegedly resisting arrest." The hospital opening ceremony sparkled under summer sunlight. His son and the twins cut the ribbon together, giggling when the scissors got stuck. Lena stood close enough that their pinkies brushed. "Papa's calling it the Guardian Wing in your honor." He watched his boy demonstrate a super-secret security handshake to the twins. Should have named it after him. A limo pulled up. The grandfather emerged, walking without a cane now, though he still winced when laughing. "Stop hogging my grandkids," he boomed, sweeping all three children into a hug. Later, as fireworks lit the sky, Lena slipped her hand into his. "You know, the cottage has an extra bedroom. In case you ever want to be closer. His son, eavesdropping as usual, pumped his fist. Yes. Can we, Dad? Please. The twins joined the chorus, tugging at his sleeves. The grandfather smirked over their heads, raising a champagne glass in silent toast. He looked at his son, at the family they'd somehow found in the wreckage, and smiled. Yeah, he said. We're home.